2 Corinthians. If you have no idea where 2 Corinthians is, good. We are so glad that you're here. That's why we do, one of the reasons we do this. 2 Corinthians chapter 5. If you look at your 2 Corinthians, right here in my Bible, it's here. Okay, so you're about, I would say, what, 4/6 of the way through the Bible? Get kind of near the end. Okay, you're getting past the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, getting into the writings of Paul, and you're going to hit Corinthians. There's 2 Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, and 2 Corinthians. While you're finding that, you also can go to the front and use the table of contents to find the page number. I got to drive for a while, a brand new. The year was 1998. The model year was 1999. Ford F-350 Crew Cab Dually Diesel pickup truck. It is a nice truck. That was if you're a Ford truck guy, you know that in they skipped the 98 model year on the big trucks, redesigned them, and came out with the 99s really early. It was like March or April that the 99s were out in 98, which is a little weird, but whatever. We had one of the first ones. I can tell you that as a 25-ish-year-old guy, buying that truck was one of the coolest experiences of my life. Because there's nothing like walking into a Ford dealership looking the way I do, knowing I'm about ready to drop a whole lot of money and buy a truck, and watch them not take me seriously. It is really an adventure. It was a lot of fun. Well, drove that thing, drove it all over the country, pulling a big trailer. It was good times. It ran on diesel. Diesel is a different animal than gasoline if you didn't know this. Smells different, runs different, it's different. This is really geared towards guys right now. Women, if you're not into diesel, I'm really sorry. Please just hang on as long as you can and try not to tune me out too much. But it's really the epitome of masculinity. You know, if you see some guy, I saw some guy yesterday at Eagle in Fairview driving a diesel truck, and he came off the line making a right-hand turn, floored it. He let out a massive amount of diesel black smoke over the people behind him. I know the people for 3-4 cars were cursing at him, and he was up there feeling incredibly testosterone filled. He was a man, and he had just hit the pedal down to the floor, belched forth smoke, and his engine, he felt cool. One day I was driving, I was off the road, and I had a doctor appointment of some kind. I don't know what kind of doctor appointment, but I know that I was late for the doctor's appointment, and I got in the drive to go to the doctor's appointment, which was 15-20 minutes away, jumped in and looked at the fuel gauge, which was down on E with the light on. Now, if you know anything about diesels, and if you've driven one, you know that running a diesel out of diesel is the worst thing you can do, because it doesn't just pump in like gas. You got to prime it and stuff that I'm not that man enough to know how to do, so it's incredibly terrifying. So I was not going to try to play Russian roulette and get to the doctor on time, because this could turn really ugly. So I drive into this gas station on the outside of this little town in Michigan called Berrien Springs, Michigan. There's this little gas station, I think it's a Chevron or a Mobil or something, and it's half truck stop, half gas station. It's got a couple truck pumps. And so I fly in and fly around to the truck pumps, because they're big, you know, they're big, like gas, little, diesel, big. That means you have to fill that sucker up faster. Grabbed the pump, stuck it in there, hit it, filled that sucker up, took it out, jumped in my vehicle, and drove off in a rush after pain, of course. Headed down the road, and about 3 miles down the road, this big, huge poof of smoke comes flying out of the exhaust. I lose all power in the engine, and I'm coasting. And I'm going, what in the world had just happened? And I'm now really late. I played back the tape in my mind of fueling up, and I came to this stark and horrible realization. I had filled up the tank with gasoline. Not diesel. Gas doesn't run in a diesel engine. I found this out the hard way. Now I'm sitting on the side of the road calling Andrews University vehicle maintenance. Yeah, something happened, and it might have been me. Could you come tow this? If you're designed for diesel, you don't run on gas. And you're going to be incredibly frustrated as long as you're trying to run on gas. It's just not going to work. It did not work for me. They had to drain the engine, drain the fuel tank. put diesel in, and fortunately I'd only put in a few gallons because I was rushing. I hadn't filled up all the way. So they drained it out, they put in a bunch of diesel, and then they just idled it and said, let it run through a whole lot of diesel and just work itself out before you put a load on that engine. And we got through it okay without any massive major overhaul. Dodged a bullet. If you're made to run on diesel, you don't run on gas very well.
It says diesel right on there when you fill it.
It does! But the diesel and the gas pumps were right next to each other. It was a truck island. I wasn't even thinking that they would have had gas. Grab the nearest nozzle, stuck it in there, and hit go.
It's usually green, too.
Doesn't work. Please don't reinforce that. The status of my shoes, he wasn't thinking. All right. 2 Corinthians chapter 5. Could it be that you and I often live lives fueled by the wrong stuff? 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 15. He died for everyone. Who's the he in this verse? Thank you. Glad you all are with me. He died for everyone, so that those who receive his new life will what? What does your Bible say? No longer live for themselves. Instead, they will live for Christ, who died and was raised for them. He died for everyone. What was the purpose of his death? So that those who receive his new life will no longer live for themselves. Notice that there is a contrast here between old and new. The old way of living versus the new way of living. And no longer now living for myself, I'm living for others. You were created in the new birth process. When God gives you new life, you were created to live for yourself. To live not for yourself, to live for others. How did we get to this place that we live for ourselves? I want you to put a piece of paper, put your child's finger, put something in 2 Corinthians, and I want you to go back to Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3 to me is an incredibly powerful story, and I refer to it often because you can't understand most of the rest of the word until you get a picture of this, because this is the pivotal transition moment where everything changes. God makes Adam and Eve, and it was perfect, it was very good. He said, very good. Not just good, very good. Everything is perfect. They live in complete harmony, beauty, peace, everything. Until Genesis 3. Starting in verse 1. The serpent was the shrewdest of all the wild animals the Lord God had made. Revelation says the serpent is the devil. We don't know all about where he came from. Ezekiel and Isaiah tell us that he was in the presence of God. Jesus tells us that he was thrown down out of heaven with 1/3 of the angels. There was rebellion in heaven. He got bought up on how great he was and his own pride and his own beauty. He came at war with God, and he was thrown down to earth. The serpent was the shrewdest of all the wild animals the Lord God had made. One day, he asked the woman, did God really say, you must not eat the fruit from any of the trees in the garden? Of course we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden. Notice how he starts to move her into conversation. Starts by asking her questions. Moving her into sin doesn't start with sin, it starts with a dialogue. You'll notice if you look back at times where you've gone astray with God, it always started with something or someone starting a dialogue with you. Hey, this isn't so bad. Oh, hey, what about, oh. And suddenly you're where you never would have believed you had been.